Chapter 6, The Plan. Nadine didn't go with her brothers to help their stepfather feed out. Instead, she stayed around the house, doing chores and helping her mother fold yesterday's washing. It's for the best, love, Marion offered as they flicked a sheet between them. Hawkeye took up too much of your time. Her quick fingers folded the cloth. He was a bit of a nuisance, she added. No, he wasn't, Nadine replied as she took her end and doubled it over the sheet. He's a great dog. But her mother shook her head. Ted's right, Nadine. We can't afford to keep animals here who aren't worth anything. He is worth something to me, Nadine exclaimed. Well, perhaps I could ask Ted about getting you a kitten. He has said there are a lot of mice up in the shed. Why do you always have to side with him? Nadine blurted out. I'm not siding with anyone, Marion answered defensively. I make up my own mind, thank you very much, and my mind tells me that Ted is right. Nadine could feel the heat coming into her face. He's not right, and neither are you. It's mean to take Hawkeye away. Uncle Ted's mean, and enough, her mother shouted. The decision has been made, Nadine. You are only a child and you do not know what's best. And you left the gate open. This is your punishment. If we let you get away with things every time you did something wrong, then you'd never learn. Anger was bubbling away now. This was the sort of rubbish Ted went on about. Her mother was just saying what he said. Well, I hate him, she spat. I hate him, and so does Martin and Daniel. We hate him. We hate this house. We hate living here. Whack. Marion had slapped her across the mouth. Nadine's eyes filled with tears and she ran off, carrying her pile of stuff, leaving her mother to pick up and match the socks. That was the first time Nadine could ever remember her mother hitting any of them. She went into the bathroom, wet a flannel and held it over her stinging face. This was all Ted's fault. He had changed their mother. Nadine knew that Marion was afraid of him too. She remembered the first time Ted had made Marion cry. It was just before they came here. She and Nadine had stayed longer at a friend's place than what they'd planned. But they'd had such a fun time, and Nadine remembered how they had giggled all the way home. When they had arrived, the house was strangely dark and quiet. Ted was sitting in a chair in the living room without the lamp on. Nadine made herself scarce and went up to her bedroom. It was only moments later that she heard them both yelling. Uncle Ted's deep booming voice, Marion's high-pitched voice pleading with him. Then there were banging sounds, and Nadine had rushed out of her room to find her mother leaning against the wall, sobbing, and her stepfather standing, staring out of the window with his back to them, hands clenched, fist-like, by his side. Nadine had gone to her mother. What's wrong? She'd asked, but Marion had only wept. Nadine had turned to Ted. What's happening? She had demanded. Ted had turned then and roared at her to get to her room. When Nadine hadn't moved, Ted had rushed her, pulled at her arm, and, half dragging, half lifting, he had taken her back to her room. All night, as she had lain in her bed, Nadine imagined she could hear Marion crying. It was also then that Nadine had seen the dark bruises around her mother's wrists. She knew Martin and Daniel had seen them too, but no one had said anything. No one talked about it. From that time on, things had gone from not great to miserable. And that feeling of misery had remained with Nadine. Only now that Hawkeye was gone, she was angry as well. She returned to her room, and as she put her clothes away, Nadine muttered to herself, Deep breaths. Keep calm. Just wait. For the plan she and her brothers had hatched needed time, and if she had any more outbursts like that one, she could kiss Hawkeye goodbye forever. She found her mother in the kitchen getting breakfast ready. Nadine knew she needed to apologise so that she could get what she wanted, even though her face ached a little and she hated doing it. She was going to grovel really hard. "Ma," she began, trying to sound very sorry. "I didn't mean any of that stuff. It's just that I feel bad that I made Hawkeye go away." Her mother sighed but did not look at her. Instead, she stared out the window as she spoke. "I'm sorry I hit you," she said quietly, "but you said some very hurtful things." "I know," Nadine replied, "and I'm sorry, really sorry." "He takes care of us." "Yes." "Don't you remember how hard it was before he came?" Marion asked. "No house, no money, no father." Nadine's dad had ditched them when she was a baby. Though Martin said he remembered him, Daniel and Nadine didn't. Marion told them she thought he was overseas or dead. It didn't matter which. He was never coming back, and Marion had to struggle on alone. "Sorry," Nadine said again, wanting to get the apology over with. "You're right." "Okay," her mother said. "We'll forget about it. You can help me with breakfast." "Sure." Nadine went to the fridge. "I'll make scrambled eggs. They're Uncle Ted's favourite." She tried to speak lightly, even though her heart was heavy. She felt even worse, however, when she noticed her mother wipe tears from her cheeks.